Hey guys, it's Phoenix Android Radios here. In this video, we're going to be looking at the 16-inch radio for the Toyota 4Runners all the way from 2010 to 2022. It comes in three size options: 4 gigs of RAM, 64 hard drive, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of hard drive, and 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of hard drive. It comes in three different color options. The color option we have here is the matte black. There is also a gloss black and a silver. The buttons here and knobs are also programmable, and they have their initial functions with the labels here. The hazard button up here, your factory vents go here, and you also have a top portion piece that also mounts here. At the bottom here, we have the car lighter port, 2 USB ports, and a factory USB port. These 2 USB ports will be coming from our radio. You also get certain cover pieces. This one is for the hazard button at the top. If this one does not fit your vehicle, you can always turn it around. There are 2 screws here, 2 screws there, and then from there you can mount the different bracket to fit your hazard. The same goes for the 2 USB ports down here. If you have a heated or cooled seats, you also get this portion that you can pop it out from behind. There are some clips there that need to be released, and this one can slide through for your factory heated seats to fit there. This is also the factory USB port that goes here. If this one does not fit, there's 2 screws on the side that you can remove and then move the different bracket for your vehicle fitment. At the back of the radio, we have the Wi-Fi antenna, which is for 2.4 gigahertz band and 5G band. The GPS antenna that you screw on, and also a 4G antenna for the SIM card slot, which is down here, and a secondary SIM card slot that we'll show you later. The radio antenna connector, the power connector, several auxiliary connectors. Specifically, this one we will not be using, but the rest of them do have cables to connect to them. The back for the air conditioning control, the canvas connector on the back of the board, and the 2 connectors here that will let you see your airbag light or indicators. And we can see them here. They should light up depending on what's happening. Before we move on to the power harnesses, we're going to look at the accessory wires. One of them are these 2, and this is specifically for the indicator lights on the back of here. So these 2 would connect to your factory plugs, and you can see on the back, we have 2 connections here for these adapters with the clip going downwards. And one thing to note is when you are removing your factory radio, you do need to remove the indicators from the factory portion so that you can fit our radio in. All the radios come with these accessory wires. You have a single USB cable that is 4-pin. This is for your built-in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also have a dual USB cable that is 6-pin, and this can do power as well as data, but not your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You have an adapter that supports the factory USB port on the car. So this should connect to your vehicle connector, and this can connect to one of these 3 USB ports. We recommend one of the accessory ones, and that will retain your factory USB port on the car. If your vehicle has 2 USB ports like this trim does, you will receive these 2 adapters, and this allows you to first connect right here, which will then allow you to insert these USB ports into here to mount them so that you don't need to route these cables to your glove compartment. This is the SIM card antenna. It's a screw-on antenna, and it is circular. Goes to the back right here on the last screw hole. And then right above it is the GPS antenna. which you will get a external GPS antenna here that you can screw on. And this antenna you can leave in the back of the radio as long as your GPS monitor shows green bars in the settings. Vehicles from 2014 and above will receive an adapter for their factory GPS antenna. So you have an option to using the factory antenna or the external antenna. If you have a 2010 to 2013 vehicle, you do need to use the aftermarket antenna. You also get an external microphone, which is an external microphone, but you don't need to use it because the radio does have a built-in microphone, and it also has a setting inside to support the factory microphone on the vehicle that you can toggle back and forth. But the built-in microphone is right here. Again, you can also use the factory microphone on the vehicle. There's a setting for that. There's also a reset button here that you can press with a paper clip. Just need to click it, no need to press and hold. You have the factory or aftermarket camera connector, clip facing downwards, and you have a RCA set of cables with this connector here, as well as your second SIM card slot. And it's kind of a long cable that you can route somewhere accessible. You have a microphone input. If the factory vehicle microphone is not working, or the built-in microphone on the radio is not as good or not working, you can again plug in the external one. There is a green RCA for subwoofer. If you plan on doing an aftermarket sound system, you do have a subwoofer out signal, as well as your front right and front left outputs. And we will also see the rear left and rear right outputs later on. CVBS in. If you put a video feed through here, you can see it in one of the apps on the radio. You also have AUX CVBS in. If you put a video feed through here, you can see that video feed in the AUX app. And that also corresponds to aux in R and aux in L. So these are a set. You can hear the audio as well as the video in the aux app. Here's the SIM card slot. And this connector here goes to the top here with the clip facing down. Those are all the accessory wires. Now we can look at the main harnesses. To the right, we have the harness for 2010 to 2013, and it comes with this set of cables. This is the connector for your rear entertainment if you have a monitor on the ceiling. This allows you to get the video feed and input it to our radio so that you can see the video from the ceiling DVD player. You have a red and white aux-L and aux-R that lets you support the factory aux jack on the car, maybe like a 3.5 aux cable jack. You also have an OBD connector, which you don't need to plug in at first. First, connect the main harness. If you do not have RPM or door status, then you do need to connect the OBD. So connect the OBD port on the car, and this 2-pin connector comes from this connector here, following it to here. This OBD connector gives you your RPM and door status if you don't have that reading. Looking at all these connectors, the main thing we want to look at is the radio antenna. So first connect the radio antenna for the radio signal. From here, the best strategy would be to connect all the matching connectors. Once you've made all matching connectors, connect this to the back of the radio. This connector goes here with the clip facing to the right. With all these connectors, find a slot on the vehicle. If you do not have the connection, can leave it not connected. If we look at the RCAs really quick, we have several red, white, and yellows. All these RCAs come from these plugs, but you don't need to use all of them. If you have a matching plug to them, make the connection. If there is no matching plug, can leave disconnected. Once you find the matching plugs for any of these connectors, you can see that they are all labeled the same, and you only need to use one out of the several sets you have here. So you have camera, 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 and camera. You have aux L and R, as well as another 3 sets of the aux left and aux right. As stated on these labels, this is where you will get one of your factory camera connections. First, with the camera, we have several RCAs all labeled cam. And if you follow each camera RCA to their respective connectors, see if you have one of them connected already. Say, for example, you found a matching connector for this plug, and there is a male RCA labeled camera coming out of it. From there, you can connect the male RCA to the camera RCA from up here. And then you can go in reverse and see if you have the video signal. Say if we found another camera, and this one also had a connector in the vehicle. Both of these connectors had a connection, and both of these connectors have a male RCA labeled camera. From here, you can try either one of them while in reverse to see if you have a video feed. So while in reverse, switch the RCAs to see if the video feed comes from here or here. That is if your connector fits. The same goes for the auxiliary right and left RCAs. If your connector did not match the car, then those RCAs are not needed. So for example, we have 3 sets of aux R and L, which leads to 3 different connectors. You will most likely use only one out of the 3. And let's say we use the middle one. You have a matching connector to this one. And just so happen it has a male RCA labeled cam as well as auxiliary left and right. We can connect this camera. And we can connect the aux R and aux L to the RCAs on this set of harness. Specifically, we will choose aux in R and aux in L. And we are using the aux R and L from this connector because we found a matching connector. So this is the factory microphone connector. And if you have a monitor on the ceiling, you may also find an identical connector that looks like this. One note is when connecting this connector, this needs to go to a factory connector with maybe only 2 wires on it, versus the factory microphone connector, the 8-pin for that connector in the vehicle has more wires. Another thing to note is earlier we mentioned there are 3 sets of aux R and aux L. You also get another connector that is for a different trim. If your vehicle, none of these fit your vehicle, you may actually have this connector, which is 6-pin, but check if the keyhole alignment is the same to confirm the connection. And also you can check if the wires actually match the vehicle if you do not find a connector for one of these aux R and aux L. This harness is for 2010 to 2013. If we remove it here, we still have our original set, which is the SIM card antenna, GPS antenna, factory or aftermarket camera RCA, the accessory RCAs as well as a SIM card, and the indicator lights for airbag or seatbelt. The other harness is for 2014 to 2019. You have a factory GPS antenna adapter, so you don't need to use the external antenna we provide. You can remove this, screw on the adapter, and we are screwing it onto the middle screw hole labeled GPS, and find the connector in your vehicle for this. For the Toyota 4Runner, we've seen the factory GPS antenna connector to be white. For the 2014 to 2019 vehicles, you have the radio antenna here and the adapter for the car connector. You have the power connector here for the power to turn on. The factory camera adapter, plug this to the vehicle. This male RCA will connect to the RCA up here. And you have this connector that will allow you to support the factory 3.5 jack or aux jack on the vehicle. And you have the canvas connection here that connects to the board on the back and the power plug here. You will receive an adapter here that connects to the main power cable. And this small connector here allows us to connect it to the back of the radio here. And coming off of that adapter, you have 2 green wires with an 8-pin connector that connects to here. There's 2 RCAs labeled RCA rear right and rear left. This is if you're using an aftermarket sound system, you have outputs for the right side and left side back speakers. Coming back to the main harness, we have the canvas connection that goes to the board on the back here. And on these connectors, we can first find is the radio antenna for the radio signal. This connects up top here. You have the power connector you need to find in the vehicle. Another connector here. Find the matching connectors in the car. And the last 2 is your factory backup camera and the factory aux jack on the vehicle. Find a matching connector in the vehicle. The aux-L and aux-R will connect to aux-in and aux-R on the RCAs from this harness. So we can find aux-in and aux-R, connect it right here. And for the 2014 to 19 vehicles, that comes from this connector. For the factory backup camera, find the matching connector in the vehicle, male RCA, cam CVBS, connects to the female at the top here, next to the radio antenna, with this yellow RCA for the factory or aftermarket backup camera. Once these main connectors have been found, connect the air conditioning plug here. If your vehicle has 2 USB ports, you can put that here. And you also get, again, these 2 adapters that let you click these ports in. But if you have a heated seat function, you also have this adapter where you can pop this out and pop this one in. The same goes for the car lighter. Move the factory car lighter port onto here, it will click in. And this is the factory USB port on the vehicle. If the bracket here does not fit, you will have an extra bracket that is a different shape. You can unscrew these 2 screws and move this over to here to fit your factory USB port module. Moving on, this is the 2020 and above, all the way to 2022. It does have less connectors here, but you also get the GPS, factory GPS antenna adapter, which we already have screwed on. You have the factory backup camera RCA, the auxiliary R and L for the factory 3.5 jack on the vehicle, the radio antenna connector, and the canvas connector on the back of the board, and the power connector that needs to connect to this adapter. So let's connect the power. Connect the canvas connection on the back of the board. There are not too many connectors here. The main thing is to find matching connectors to the vehicle. This one is for the radio antenna, and the other end will connect to the top here. You have the sound connector here. Connect this to the vehicle once found. You have the camera connector here with the male RCA camera. This male RCA will connect to the top here, labeled camera video in, and that comes from this connector. And the last connector is your power connector, as well as the auxiliary connector for the 3.5 jack on the vehicle. So the red and white aux-R and aux-L will connect to aux in R and aux in L coming from this connector here. This is the power connector. To get the radio to come on, you need to connect the power connector, this one, and this canvas board. If the radio doesn't come on, this connector, there is an identical one. See if it's mismatched. One way to tell to see if this yellow wire has a matching wire on the car side of the plug. If there's no wire matching to this, you may have mismatched the identical connector. Once this is connected, you can connect the AC connector as well as the indicator lights for passenger airbag or seatbelt. And from there, you can turn on the vehicle and see if the radio comes on. That's a quick rundown of the connections and the cables you get for vehicles 2010 to 2013. You get this harness. 2014 to 19, you get this harness with a GPS factory antenna adapter. And the 2020 and above, we have this harness with the factory GPS antenna adapter. If you guys have any specific questions or concerns, send us an email or give us a call. Again, this is the 16-inch radio for the Toyota 4Runner, and this is the matte black version. It also comes in gloss black and silver. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.